Hey everyone, Emma Ansa here. Thanks so much for tuning into the Black Experience. So, family, let's talk about Will Smith and the opening weekend of Bad Boys alongside Martin Lawrence and Stephen A. Smith and what he had to say about the movie. He made his feelings very clear about the fact that he's not rocking with Will Smith and he had no intentions on watching the movie. He had a lot to say and he got dragged for it. So let's take a look at what he had to say and then we'll talk about it further.
Still will never stop being a Will Smith fan. I'm not surprised at all that pre-sales have simmered. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it ultimately plummeted once all is said and done. And you know why I feel that way, ladies and gentlemen? Because I think that I'm speaking not for everybody, not for most, but at the very least millions of people out there when I say what I'm about to say. I'm not nearly as interested in seeing Will Smith in the movies than I am of seeing him doing an actual sit-down interview with somebody to explain why he did what he did.
So those were his feelings and as I said, he got dragged for what he had to say. Now let's take a look at what he is saying since being dragged. Take a look and then we'll talk about it further.
I got to get back to the Will Smith topic that I tackled because it created some noise, as most things that I usually do. It's just the way it goes for me. Um, I'm not here to apologize for anything, but I am here to clarify because I want to make sure that everybody understands where I was coming from. When I spoke Friday about Will Smith and the new Bad Boy movies, the Bad Boys Ride or Die movie coming out with him and Martin Lawrence that had been out for a couple of days. First things first, our initial reporting was stating that it was coming up short compared to what it had done numbers-wise in the past at the box office for Bad Boys 1, 2, and 3. Well, it turns out that this was a very productive weekend for Bad Boys Ride or Die. And Martin Lawrence and Will Smith deserve a boatload of credit for that because they got people returning to the movie theaters. So that was a huge, huge plus, and we can't ignore that. And let's give props where props is due. But I want to get more specific into what my take is before I have my boy on. Even though we're both in a similar venue, we're right near one another. I was having some technical difficulties, so he's going to be in a separate room because we down here in Florida, but he's right here in the same vicinity as me. I just got him in a separate room, and I'll let you see who he is in a second. Let me say this to y'all. I don't know if I'll ever get over what Will Smith did to Chris Rock. But that doesn't mean I have to. And it doesn't mean that it's a license for me to negatively impact Will Smith. Will Smith slapping Chris Rock was a devastating thing. I'm not talking just for Chris Rock, who's a friend of mine. I'm talking for the black community because obviously Will Packer was the first black producer to be doing the Oscars in its history. And that was a devastating blow to him. Will Smith came out with Emancipation a year later for Apple and all of that stuff. Will Smith was sensational in that movie. So was Antoine Fuqua, the esteemed director and producer extraordinaire. One could easily argue that both of them would have won an Oscar for that, and that Will slap cost Will Smith and Antoine Fuqua an Oscar. That's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about black folks everywhere aspiring to be in this business, aspiring to succeed, and something like that happens and it was a blemish on all of us. Because I know how much white America reveres Will Smith. And the thinking along the lines in my mind was, hell, if he did that, what would the rest of us do? There are certain things that happen in the lives of an individual where those incidences are used as a license to castigate the rest of us. And that's what I was thinking about when I said what I said Friday about being torn as to wanting to go see the movie but not wanting to see Will Smith. I wasn't encouraging anybody else not to do it. I was just saying that I was having trouble dealing with it. And then I got a call from my man Charlie Mack. Charlie Mack is Will Smith's former security, good friend of Will Smith, closely connected to Will Smith for decades. I've known Charlie Mack for nearly 30 years. I got a lot of love for him. And he was on fire, calling me because he disagreed with my opinion and was going back and forth with me about it. And then he caught me because he says, Stephen A., what about Grace? What about Grace? This is how he feeds his family. This is how he earns his living. He don't have a right to earn a living ever again. He can't make a mistake, Stephen A., when he never made a mistake before. That's a damn good point. Bigger point he made was Martin Lawrence. Because we all look at Martin Lawrence. If you watch Martin from back in the day, ladies and gentlemen, you can't find nobody that loved Martin Lawrence more than me. That brother is brilliant. That brother has done nothing but create laughs and laughter for us for decades. We should all revere him. And he's the one that brought Will Smith on to Bad Boys. And Will Smith's still doing Bad Boy movies with him because you know he damn sure ain't trying to do it with anybody else. That's love right there. That's loyalty right there. And then you got to take into account the inordinate amount of people who work on a movie and how they're employed and how they have opportunities. And all because Will Smith is doing what he's doing. And then you got to take into account the fact that throughout Will Smith's life, not just his career, there has been exponentially far more good than bad. And I certainly did not mean to gloss over that. I didn't mean to act like that wasn't reality, that didn't happen. And so I really appreciate my man, my brother, Charlie Mack, for calling me and passionately making that case to remind me of what Will Smith is, who he is, and what he has meant to all of us. You see black people gravitating to him. I'm getting text messages and emails all over the place. Who said he lost our support? He never lost it. We didn't like what he did. It was unfortunate what he did. But damn it, we love Will Smith and we forgive him. You don't hear Chris Rock talking about it and complaining about him. Eventually they'll meet and they'll talk, Stephen A. We heard all of that. So I got to stand down. And then I saw this video right here, y'all. Take a look at this. And that just elocutes my point even better.
We're in Baldwin Hills. We're about to go in the theater. It's a ritual I have. I do it like when I have a movie come out. On Friday, Saturday, and usually a matinee on Sunday, I go into theaters.
Let that motherfucker cook the chicken.
Hey, I'm glad y'all enjoyed that. That was a good program.
That was Will Smith at the Baldwin Hills movie theater in LA. You saw how fans swarmed him? You saw all them black people swarming him? Because he's still loved. He's loved by all of us. He's loved by me still. As salty as I am about what happened and the effect that I thought and still think to some degree that it could have on us in the industry. But I really appreciate Charlie Mack checking me on that.
So here's my thing. I thought that what Will Smith did during the Oscar ceremony was just cringeworthy. I thought it was just horrible. I feel like it really ruined the night because there were so many winners. There were so many firsts that night. You know, the first time that it was directed by a black man, you know, hosted by a black man, so many wins by black people. And the only thing that everybody was talking about for the longest time was the slap and not all of the beautiful things that were going on as a result of this Oscars. And so there was also this stigma of, okay, finally, a Black person, is in charge of directing the Oscars, and all of these Black people have won what we've been screaming and jumping and up and down about, saying, not enough Black representation at the white Oscars. And finally, we get that, and then this happens. So for me, that was like the most cringe-worthy thing. It's like, oh, you just ruined it for everybody, because this was all that was being talked about, as I said. Now, as a result of that, Emancipation Day, which I thought was a great movie, flopped. And, Will Smith had to just go away for a little while and sort out his life, And Jada Pinkett Smith was also getting dragged, saying, it's because of you that he did this. And, this whole situation with her alopecia. And then we come to find out they weren't even married, like married on paper, but they had been separated for 7 years. And so they weren't even together that night. And so we're saying, okay, Will Smith was, taking up for his wife when in fact, as I said, they weren't even involved. And so she was getting dragged, and there was a whole debate about whether or not she had alopecia or not. And, who cares about her bald head? And why was that the thing that made him get up and haul off and smack Chris Rock to that degree? There was all of this talk, but again, nothing about celebrating the fact that Black people were rocking the Oscars and were killing the game in the Oscars. So again, that to me was like the worst part of it. But like Stephen A. Smith says, that Charlie Mack said to him, what about Grace? Think of all the pros and all of the good that Will Smith has been done and everything he brought to the art, and just him as a person. He was very beloved. And yeah, he made a colossal mistake. He's paying for that mistake. He has paid for it. And now he's coming back. And I don't agree with Stephen A. Smith. I think we should allow Will Smith to have his moment now. Bad Boys to me was one of my favorite franchises. I have every intentions on seeing the movie. I have every intentions on supporting, because, like Stephen A. Smith said, but via Charlie Mack, is you also have to think about all of the other people that are involved: the grips, the showrunners, the writers, the directors, the producers, all of these people, the other actors alongside, the extras, it goes on and on. All of these people would have been out of a job as well as a result of it. So we have to consider those lives too. And those people also have to put food on the table for their families. So by canceling Will Smith, which is one of the main parts of the Bad Boys franchise, then everybody else suffers. So I think he does deserve some grace, and I think it's time to let it go. Let's see what he does going forward. And as far as Stephen A. Smith speaking for the whole Black community, you can't speak for everybody. Clearly, the box office results say it all. I mean, it's over 105 million worldwide. The opening weekend was over 56 million. So clearly, people are getting over it, and people are coming out to rock with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence and this franchise, because it's a great franchise. So, Stephen A. Smith, you really dropped the ball there, and I'm glad to see that you were backpedaling, but why did somebody else have to tell you that? Like, somebody else didn't have to appeal to you to say, look, what you're saying is wrong here. Let's give this guy some grace. Let's give him a chance. I mean, everybody deserves a second chance. Everybody. It's what you do with that second chance that counts. How you get up after you've been knocked down. And he has been knocked down. So I'm glad that, he's backpedaling and he's willing to give him some grace. Whether or not he chooses to rock with Will Smith, that's entirely up to him. But again, he need not speak for the rest of the Black community and the Black race of people, because some people will forgive him, some people will not, some people will rock with him again, some people will not. As I said, I personally, I have every intentions of going to see the movie. I want to go to the big screen. I'm not waiting for Netflix or Prime or anything else. I want to get the full experience in theater. And I, for one, am rocking with you, Will Smith. I have forgiven. I'm giving you some grace. And I'm interested in hearing what you all have to say. What do you think? Do you think that we should give Will Smith some grace and let's rock with him again and let's go support, the art that he has coming out? I know Hancock 2 is also going to be coming out soon. Tell me what you think. And also give me a thumbs up, thumbs up. Also share this content and let's keep this conversation going. Let's make this Black experience a good experience for all of us. So thank you again for tuning in, and I shall see you next time.